The Xerthian capital floated above the planet Lythera, like a crown of shining silver and crystal. Gigantic spires reached into the violet sky, their surfaces reflecting streams of sunlight that danced across the vast city below. Hovering vehicles moved like swarms of metallic insects between the towers, carrying citizens of the most advanced alien species in the known galaxy. At the center of it all was the palace of the alien queen, a structure so enormous and intricate it could be seen from space, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. Inside, the throne room stretched wider than any human could imagine. Towering columns spiraled toward a ceiling that seemed endless. The walls were adorned with living murals, images that moved and changed, depicting the victories of past queens and the power of the Xerthian Empire. At the heart of this vast hall sat the alien queen herself. She was regal, terrifying, and beautiful in ways humans had never imagined. Her skin shimmered like liquid silver, her eyes glowed with faint violet light, and her presence commanded absolute silence. Around her stood her advisors and the brightest minds of the Xerthian court. The queen was about to perform a ritual unlike any other in centuries. Today, she would choose a consort not just for companionship, but to honor her strength and status. The consort was expected to be intelligent, brave, and powerful, a symbol of her dominance. Many candidates from across the galaxy had arrived, each boasting extraordinary skills and abilities. Yet among them was one that did not seem remarkable at all. A human named Caleb Renshaw stood quietly near the edge of the grand chamber, taking in the scene with calm curiosity. He was lean, average in height, and dressed in the standard attire of an interstellar envoy, simple, functional, and utterly unremarkable compared to the extravagant forms of the alien candidates. Where the others radiated power and flashy displays, Caleb radiated nothing. At least, nothing that anyone could see. The queen's gaze fell on him. Most humans were primitive, fragile, and unimaginably weak compared to the Xerthians. They had no psychic powers, no advanced adaptations, no superhuman abilities. Caleb should have seemed laughably insignificant. But something about the human made her pause. There was a quiet confidence, a subtle awareness that made him different from the others. The ceremony began. One by one, the alien candidates demonstrated their strengths. Some used psychic powers to bend light and fire blasts of energy. Others performed feats of strength that shattered metal columns. The crowd gasped and cheered at every display, the queen's eyes scanning with mild interest. Caleb remained still, observing, waiting for his turn. When it was finally his moment, the court snickered. "A human?" whispered one alien. "They chose this weakling to compete with us?" Caleb stepped forward. Unlike the others, he did not raise his hands or shout, nor did he summon any obvious display of power. Instead, he faced the challenge set before him, a complex maze filled with traps, puzzles, and tests of agility. This was no ordinary trial. It had been designed to push the limits of even the strongest Xerthian minds and bodies. The other aliens had tried and failed, relying too heavily on their psychic abilities and raw power. Caleb moved carefully. He observed the traps, noting patterns and timing. He avoided the swinging energy blades, slid beneath mechanical jaws, and solved the coded locks that barred the path forward. At times, he paused, thinking, analyzing the safest and most efficient route. The audience watched in disbelief. The human was succeeding where the mightiest of the Xerthians had failed. Finally, he reached the center of the arena. A crystal pedestal held a glowing orb, the final test. The orb projected illusions of fear and doubt, images designed to break the mind of the competitor. Many had faltered, screaming or fleeing. Caleb closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and reached out. He did not resist the illusions. He observed them. He acknowledged the fear, accepted it, and moved forward. The illusions dissipated, as if recognizing his courage and clarity. The queen leaned forward in her throne, her interest fully captured. For the first time, in centuries, she felt a spark of genuine curiosity. Who was this human, and how could he do what no other alien had managed? The test complete. Caleb bowed respectfully. There was no fanfare. No need to prove himself to the court, his actions had already spoken. The Queen's advisors murmured nervously, unsure how to interpret the events. Many were offended that the human had performed so well, some suspicious that it must be a trick or a fluke. But the Queen said nothing. Her mind raced with questions she had not felt in centuries. As the candidates were dismissed, Caleb returned to the waiting area for observation. He interacted politely with the other candidates, showing respect even as they whispered insults and doubted him. He helped one alien who had been injured by a trap, using calm logic to treat a wound with limited resources. The Queen noticed everything. In a society obsessed with psychic dominance and flashy displays, Caleb's quiet intelligence and moral strength were revolutionary. That evening, the Queen summoned him privately. The throne room was empty, bathed in the soft glow of ambient lights. Caleb approached cautiously, unsure of what the encounter would entail. "You are unlike any human I have encountered," the Queen said, her voice a melody of authority and intrigue. "Most are fragile, fearful, and foolish. Yet you have done what my best have failed to achieve." "Why?" Caleb bowed slightly. "I do not wish to impress. I only act as my mind and conscience guide me. I have learned to adapt, to observe, and to make decisions carefully. That is all." The Queen studied him. His words were simple, but there was an unshakable strength beneath them. She had expected arrogance, deceit, or desperation. Instead, she found humility, courage, and clarity. "Your kind is different," she said softly. "Perhaps more than I understood." Caleb nodded, unsure whether she meant it as praise or mere observation. A moment of silence passed. The Queen, who had never felt hesitation in centuries of ruling, found herself unsure. Choosing a consort had always been about power, compatibility, and advantage. But with Caleb, none of these measures seemed sufficient. There was a quality in him that could not be measured: resilience, creativity, and an understanding of life and logic that surpassed the expectations of even the most advanced species. The court would not understand, she thought. They would dismiss him as weak, unworthy, or inferior. Yet she could not. She had to know more about him, to see if his abilities were as subtle and powerful as they seemed. "Tomorrow," she said, "you will undergo further observation. You will be tested in ways that will challenge not just your body, but your mind and judgment. You will have allies and obstacles, and everything will be recorded. The court will watch, and your responses will determine your fate." Caleb inclined his head. "I understand." As he left the throne room, the Queen's mind lingered on one thought. This human may be the most fascinating being I have ever encountered. Outside, the city shimmered under twin moons. Citizens of the Xerthian Empire moved about their lives, oblivious to the choice being contemplated in the palace. Caleb returned to his quarters quietly, reflecting on the day. He did not boast. He did not celebrate. He only prepared himself for the challenges ahead, knowing that the next day would push him further than the trials of the arena. That night, the Queen could not sleep. She walked the terraces of her palace, overlooking the city and the stars beyond. Her mind replayed the human's actions, his calm decisiveness, and the courage that had shown in the test. He had revealed something she had not expected. A kind of power that was not brute strength, not psychic ability, but something deeper, something that could not be measured or predicted. In the quiet of the night, she realized that her choice might be more than ceremonial. It might change her court, and perhaps even her empire. The thought was both thrilling and dangerous. And somewhere in the human quarters, Caleb slept peacefully, unaware that he had already left an impression that would ripple through the Xerthian court for centuries to come. Tomorrow, the real tests would begin. And neither he nor the Queen could predict just how far his true power would reach. The next morning, the palace was alive with anticipation. Word of the humans' performance in the arena had spread quietly through the court. Some whispered with disbelief, others with suspicion. But most were simply curious. No one could understand how a human, a species considered fragile and unremarkable, had outperformed the best Xerthians. Caleb awoke in his quarters, the soft light of Lythera's twin suns filtering through the crystalline windows. He dressed quickly, mindful of the day ahead. Unlike the other candidates, he carried no weapons, no devices, no visible display of power. What he had was his mind, his experience, and a determination that came from years of learning to survive in a galaxy that was often indifferent to humans. He was escorted to the observation hall, a massive chamber filled with advanced sensors, holographic displays, and alien observers. The tests today would be different. No longer a single arena or puzzle. Caleb would face situations designed to challenge his morality, intelligence, and adaptability. The Queen had insisted that these tests be rigorous, subtle, and unpredictable. The first challenge was deceptively simple. A simulation of a collapsing colony. The holographic projection covered the entire chamber. Alien citizens ran through burning streets, energy barriers collapsed, and deadly drones patrolled overhead. Caleb was given a single objective: save as many as possible. The other candidates immediately activated their powers. Psychic blasts flew through the air, energy shields protected small groups, and some even teleported to rescue dozens at once. Their methods were flashy, efficient, but also reckless. Many citizens were injured despite their powers because the aliens focused on showing off rather than thinking strategically. Caleb paused, scanning the situation carefully. He noticed patterns in the drone's patrols, weak points in the energy barriers, and escape routes the other candidates ignored. He moved quickly, prioritizing those in the most danger. He used logic and improvisation, combining small mechanical tools with clever timing to redirect drones and open safe paths. Unlike the other candidates, Caleb did not seek recognition. He quietly guided the holographic citizens to safety, communicating with them calmly and efficiently. By the time the simulation ended, nearly everyone had survived. The Xerthians who had relied on psychic power were astonished. Caleb's method had succeeded where brute force had faltered. The Queen observed silently. Her fascination grew. Here was a human who thought differently, not stronger or faster, but smarter and more adaptable. A being who could see solutions where others saw only obstacles. The second challenge came immediately after. This time, the setting was an alien jungle inside a controlled habitat within the palace. Dense vegetation, hidden creatures, and unstable terrain created a dangerous environment. Each candidate was tasked with retrieving a series of rare energy crystals scattered throughout the jungle, some in hard-to-reach places, others guarded by creatures designed to test their courage and wit. The other aliens activated their abilities immediately, blasting creatures or using psychic powers to move obstacles. Many ignored strategy, relying on their natural talents. Caleb, however, observed first. He noticed how the creatures reacted to sound and movement, how the terrain shifted when pressure was applied. He avoided confrontation when possible, using the environment to his advantage. He climbed, crawled, and moved silently, retrieving crystals while keeping both himself and the creatures safe. By the end of the test, Caleb had collected all the crystals without a single casualty. The other candidates were exhausted, some injured, some frustrated. Their powers had been impressive, but their approach was chaotic. The Queen, meanwhile, was increasingly intrigued. She realized that humans were underestimated because their strength was not immediately visible. It was subtle, adaptive, and unquantifiable. Between challenges, the Queen summoned Caleb privately. She wanted to understand him, to know how a being so unassuming could perform so brilliantly under pressure. "Your actions are unusual," she said. "Most would act for power, for recognition. Yet you act with calm and purpose. Why?" Caleb considered his answer carefully. "I have learned that strength alone is rarely enough. Decisions, strategy, and understanding people, or beings, matter more. I act to achieve the best outcome, not to impress or dominate." The Queen's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. She had never encountered a being whose priorities differed so completely from the norms of her court. She studied him silently, aware that the human's mind worked differently, and that difference fascinated her. The final challenge of the day was not a test of physical or intellectual skill, but of moral courage. Caleb and the other candidates were placed in a scenario where two groups of alien civilians were trapped on opposite sides of a simulated disaster zone. Resources were limited, and candidates had to choose whom to save first. Choosing wrong could result in virtual deaths and failure. Most candidates acted quickly, prioritizing those who could offer them recognition or advantage. Caleb paused. He considered both groups, observed their condition, and decided based on need rather than expectation. He split his resources, improvised tools, and coordinated both groups' movements simultaneously. Every decision balanced efficiency, safety, and morality. When the simulation ended, nearly everyone survived. The other candidates were shocked. Most had failed because they had acted selfishly or recklessly. Caleb had succeeded because he thought beyond his own interests, beyond immediate displays of power. The Queen, watching from her observation platform, could not hide her astonishment. She leaned forward, whispering to herself, "He is extraordinary." The realization unsettled her. For centuries, she had relied on psychic dominance and physical superiority to measure value. This human had no obvious power, yet he had outperformed the best of her species in ways that no measure could quantify. That evening, she invited Caleb to dine with her privately in her chambers. The room was vast, its surfaces shimmering with polished crystal. A soft, ambient light filled the space, casting gentle reflections across the walls. Caleb entered, bowing respectfully. "You have proven more than I expected," the Queen said, gesturing to a low table where food and drink were prepared. "Your mind and character are unlike anything I have seen. Tell me, do you truly understand what you are capable of?" Caleb paused. He did not answer immediately, unsure how much to reveal. "I know I can adapt, solve problems, and help others," he said finally. "Beyond that, I cannot predict. I take each situation as it comes and do my best." The Queen nodded slowly. She found his honesty refreshing. Many beings she encountered exaggerated their abilities or hid their weaknesses. Caleb's humility, combined with his effectiveness, created a power that was subtle but undeniable. Over the course of the evening, they discussed many things: the Xerthian Empire, human culture, and the differences between their species. The Queen was fascinated by the human perspective. He spoke of cooperation, creativity, and endurance in ways that resonated with her on a level she had never experienced. Outside the chamber, her advisors whispered nervously. "Why is she so interested in him?" one asked. "He is human. He is weak." But the Queen ignored them. She had seen enough to know that Caleb's strength was not obvious. It was hidden, layered, and formidable in ways her species could not easily understand. By the end of the night, the Queen had made a decision. She would continue to test him, yes, but her interest was no longer purely ceremonial. There was something remarkable about this human, something that could change her understanding of power entirely. As Caleb retired to his quarters, he felt the weight of the day's events but did not allow it to overwhelm him. He reviewed the lessons he had learned, prepared mentally for what might come next, and remained calm. He understood that in a world of beings who prized strength and spectacle, the quiet mind and steady hand were often the greatest advantages. The Queen watched him leave, her thoughts heavy with intrigue. How can one so ordinary appear so extraordinary? She wondered. The question would not leave her. In centuries of ruling, she had never encountered a being who challenged her assumptions so thoroughly. That night, the palace was silent, yet the tension in the air was palpable. Caleb's quiet confidence had unsettled centuries of tradition, and the Queen's fascination promised that tomorrow's challenges would be even greater. Unseen by both human and alien, the galaxy beyond Lythra stirred. Political tensions, rival empires, and cosmic anomalies loomed on the horizon. Caleb's skills, patience, and ingenuity would soon be tested in ways that went far beyond controlled simulations. And the Queen, for the first time in her long life, wondered if she had finally found someone whose power she could not predict, control, or measure, a power that might surpass even her own. The calm of the Zerthian capital shattered before sunrise. Alarms echoed across the towers, warning of an incoming fleet from the Xylar Dominion, a rival empire known for ruthless tactics and devastating technology. The enormous capital, usually serene under Lythera's twin suns, now buzzed with tension. Citizens hurried to safety, and the Zerthian defenders prepared for battle. The Queen stood on her terrace, overlooking the approach of enemy ships. Her eyes glowed faintly, a sign of heightened focus, yet her mind was unusually unsettled. She had faced countless crises before, relying on her psychic strength, strategic brilliance, and loyal generals. But today was different. The human she had been observing, the one she had chosen to watch, would be tested in ways she could never have predicted. Caleb had been summoned immediately. His calm composure contrasted sharply with the chaos around him. He was briefed quickly. The Xylar fleet had advanced cloaking devices, energy weapons capable of cutting through Zerthian shields, and boarding drones designed to infiltrate and destroy critical infrastructure. Traditional Zerthian tactics, no matter how powerful, might fail. The Queen gestured for him to speak. "Your mind must guide us," she said. "Can your species truly handle this?" Caleb looked at the looming fleet with steady eyes. "We need to act fast, but carefully. Relying only on strength or psychic power will not work. We need strategy, coordination, and adaptation." The Queen raised an eyebrow. Strategy was her domain, yet something in Caleb's calm tone made her pause. He did not command, he suggested. He did not boast, he observed. And in that observation, there was insight that even she could not ignore. Caleb moved to the command center, a massive room of holographic displays and tactical maps. Zerthian officers looked to him skeptically, their confidence shaken by the enormity of the threat. The human did not hesitate. He began analyzing the fleet's formation, calculating trajectories, predicting behavior patterns based on known Xylar tactics. "Focus our energy shields on the outer perimeter," he instructed. "Use decoys to mislead the drones, and coordinate small strike teams to disrupt their engines. Avoid direct confrontation until we understand their weaknesses." The officers exchanged glances. It was unconventional, but they had no better plan. Caleb's instructions were precise, methodical, and feasible. He moved through the room, adjusting projections and predicting outcomes as the battle unfolded. When the Xylar ships opened fire, Caleb's strategy immediately proved effective. Zerthian defenses, guided by his instructions, absorbed the initial assault with minimal damage. Decoys and traps disrupted enemy drones, and small strike teams disabled critical points on the ships without risking massive casualties. The Queen watched from the terrace, astonished. Her own psychic projections had predicted heavy losses. Yet here, under Caleb's direction, her fleet was holding. Every move he made was precise, adaptive, and thoughtful. Where brute power had often dominated, here intellect and quick thinking were saving lives. Suddenly, one of the larger Xylar warships deployed a stealth boarding unit, aiming to infiltrate the central command tower. The Queen's advisors panicked, suggesting an immediate psychic attack to destroy the ship. But Caleb shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "We can't rely solely on power. We need to predict their entry points and trap them." Using the building's layout and knowledge of the enemy's tactics, Caleb coordinated a counter-strategy. He had teams block corridors, set containment fields, and isolate the intruders. As predicted, the boarding party moved into the trap, finding themselves caught without an escape route. The Xerthians detained the intruders without casualties, a feat that left even seasoned officers speechless. The battle raged on, yet every obstacle seemed to fuel Caleb's resolve. He analyzed, adapted, and improvised. He redirected energy flows, repaired damaged shields, and coordinated fleet maneuvers with precision. Each decision balanced immediate survival with long-term advantage, a complexity the Queen had never seen in any being, alien or human. By the afternoon, the tide of the battle shifted dramatically. The Xylar Dominion, confident in their superior numbers and firepower, found themselves thwarted at every turn. Their ships were damaged or captured, their boarding attempts neutralized, and their tactical advantage nullified. Caleb's calm, analytical mind had turned what could have been disaster into a remarkable defense. The Queen observed silently, unable to hide her astonishment. The human before her had revealed a form of power entirely alien to her understanding. It was not strength, nor psychic ability, nor technology alone. It was a combination of courage, intellect, adaptability, and moral clarity. A power that no measurement could quantify. As the Xylar fleet began to retreat, the Queen descended to the command center, her eyes fixed on Caleb. "You," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "You have done what I thought impossible. You have turned our defeat into victory without even wielding strength like mine." Caleb nodded, modest as ever. "I did what needed to be done. The fleet, the citizens, they mattered more than pride or spectacle." The Queen studied him. For centuries, she had judged beings by their ability to dominate, to exert control, to wield obvious power. Here was a human, unassuming and simple, yet more powerful in practice than any she had known. It left her speechless, a sensation she had never truly felt before. Her advisors crowded around, eager to praise Caleb, yet they did not fully comprehend what had happened. He had not destroyed the enemy with psychic blasts or technological superiority. He had outthought them, outmaneuvered them, and protected life where others had valued glory. It was a victory built on principles unfamiliar to the court, and they struggled to understand it. The Queen turned to Caleb, her eyes glowing with faint violet light. "I have watched many beings in my time," she said, "and yet I have never seen this. Not strength, not cunning, but this: clarity, courage, and ingenuity." Caleb blinked, uncertain how to respond. "I only did what I thought was right. That is all I can do." For the first time in her life, the Queen was humbled. She realized that power was not always obvious. It was not always measured by psychic dominance or physical superiority. Sometimes, it was quiet, subtle, and rooted in the choices one made under pressure. Caleb had demonstrated a form of strength that was beyond her comprehension, a strength that inspired respect rather than fear. In the aftermath of the battle, the Xerthian court held a council to review the events. Senators and generals spoke, praising the human's strategic brilliance. Some still doubted, calling it luck or coincidence, but the Queen intervened. "No," she said firmly. "It is no coincidence. This human has revealed a power we have never understood. His courage, intelligence, and adaptability are unmatched. He has earned our respect, and more importantly, he has earned my admiration." The court fell silent. To speak such words publicly was unprecedented. The human, a species they had long dismissed as weak, was now recognized as a force in his own right. Caleb, standing quietly beside the Queen, felt the weight of recognition, but did not seek it. He had acted with integrity. And now, the galaxy took notice, not because he had boasted, but because he had demonstrated what true power could be. That evening, the Queen invited Caleb to dine privately once more. The chamber was quiet, lit only by the soft glow of the crystal walls. The twin suns had set, leaving Lythra bathed in a serene twilight. "You have changed everything," she said softly. "Not just for yourself, but for all who witness your actions. You have shown that strength is not always what it seems. You have shown me," she paused, searching for words, "that there is more to power than I ever understood." Caleb smiled faintly, humbled. "I only acted as I thought necessary. I did not aim to change anyone's perception. That was never my goal." The Queen studied him, a mixture of awe and admiration in her eyes. "Your species is underestimated. They have potential that even we cannot fully grasp. And you have revealed it in ways I cannot ignore." For the first time, she felt true respect for a being outside her own species. Caleb's actions had left her speechless, not from fear, but from the recognition of something extraordinary. She realized that this human was not just a companion or a candidate for her court. He was a symbol of humanity's untapped potential. A living example of courage, intelligence, and integrity in a galaxy that often valued power alone. Caleb, unaware of the magnitude of his influence, simply nodded. "I will continue to do my best," he said. "That is all anyone can do." Ender 1. The Queen smiled faintly, a rare and genuine expression. She had learned a lesson that would stay with her for the rest of her life. True power was not always visible. Sometimes, it was hidden in quiet acts of intelligence, morality, and adaptability. And sometimes, it was found in the most unlikely of beings, a human. The stars above Lythra glimmered, reflecting the new understanding taking root in the heart of the alien Queen. The human she had chosen had revealed a power that left her and her court forever changed. And for Caleb, the day's events were simply another challenge met with clarity, courage, and quiet confidence. In a galaxy filled with wonder and danger, he had shown that humans, though underestimated, were capable of greatness beyond measure. The Queen remained silent for a long moment, staring into the distance. Her speechlessness was not uncertainty, nor fear, but awe. She had witnessed a power that transcended all her previous notions. In that moment, she understood that humanity had a place among the stars not by force or dominance, but by resilience, intellect, and the strength of choice.